If you are here right now, thank you very much. That means you tagged along with my little journey of all the live action spider movies and why I like them, dislike them, or where my problems at. Most of the time it's me telling people about our nostalgia and why some of the ones maybe not held up over time. If you're mad about that, cool, I hope you're watching because you critique me more, and that's good because we can learn from each other. But main thing is, a lot of people are crapping on the MCU in these videos. I do a lot of videos bouncing off the Escape podcast, so many thanks, many shout outs to them. I watch a lot of videos, and their videos come up on my reels a lot, and they say some controversial takes sometimes for me, and sometimes I 100% agree with them, or 100% agree with one guy, another guy. I never remember their names. I call Hat Guy, No Hat Guy. But they really, No Hat Guy really loves TASM 2. A lot of their guests put Sam Raimi's movies above all the other ones, and for some reason everyone shits on MCU Spider-Man except for Far From Home. So it was very interesting for me. This was an exciting project, and I was gonna do it like in one video, and after talking for 1 hour just about the first Raimi films, I was like, I need to stop. I need to make this in parts. So sadly, it's going to be parts, and if people follow along, thank you so much. This is fun. I enjoy it. I don't have much to do. It sucks being on disability and not being able to do work and all that because you have a panic disorder, but that's life, right? Again, I tell you guys, I do these things because I love talking about superheroes, and it helps so much with my mental illness, writing things out and just feeling good, feeling better, not letting depression or anxiety get me down, and just enjoying it. And again, when I record these, I don't edit them all. I think if I edit them, it'd actually get more flashier instead of looking at my face the whole time. But I hope when people listen to this, they either have their phone down or scrolling while you hear me in the background, more like a podcast, hopefully. Because if I did have images flying up across and showing things, I'm pretty sure people would their attention span would stay longer. But since that I don't do all that, because I used to do all the bells and whistles, and unfortunately all that work and all that time, something just touched my head, all that time, it was a lot of work, a lot of energy. I'm even burnt out doing these sometimes, but I like to do it. It's like work you enjoy, and it's not even real work, but it's work. It's weird how you say it, because I'm not making money off it, but making money off it, but it does take time. It does take writing out things, and I just enjoy it. And probably by now most people left because I'm rambling and not even getting to the point. And I learned a lot of things about YouTube, and most of the time this is not what people come here for. They don't come here for hear you ramble. They're like, get to the point, sister, and we're gonna get there. But so again, all reminders that when I do this, phone goes off sometimes, dog barks sometimes, my son or wife walk in the background sometimes. I don't care. I'm okay with it. I treat it as I'm like streaming, and I would love to have a streaming channel and just talk about things. But these are more different because they're kind of like essays and breaking them down a little bit, and mainly what the outrage people feel about all these different things. So I'm hoping I'll get a new mic soon. It's not like I make money off these, because I noticed that certain angles when I go around, that was a bad image to do. If it picks me up really good, it's like a razor or something. I don't know. I usually use this for gaming, and it's never had problems, but now that I'm noticing on recording, it's kind of bad. And wait, let me just look at something that's really stupid. We are 3 minutes in, and I haven't got to the point, and you probably lost a bunch of viewers if I was getting them. But you're here because if you are still, thank you. And it's about critiquing and breaking down the Amazing Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man trilogies, semi-trilogy, and going to the new trilogy, going to a brand new day. So we're covering all the movies basically. In this one we're covering the Andrew Garfield. Actually no, I started with Homecoming, giving it some grace why it's good and important, and a lot of people, they think it's crap, and I just can't understand it. Yeah, I get very frustrated with that, but I made it very clear in the video, and I hope people understand about why I step up for it. And a lot of people look at the MCU bias because I think they were just smart and they had a long-term plan and they built it into this whole world. But I'll get into that in my final video. But this one, we got through Raimi. So now after Raimi's, we're at Andrew Garfield. So it was crazy. So we got a whole new Spider-Man. It was very exciting. Can't remember when this one came out, because I know we're talking about 2002. So the first Spider-Man I think was 2002. This one came out 2012, 10 years later. It was a long time coming, and Spider-Man needed to be redone. It was really exciting. I was thankful they're going with Gwen Stacy. I think that was appropriate. Again, I'm in for the long game. Let's do some interesting stuff. We already did Mary Jane, who was god awful in Raimi's movies. We already did Mary Jane. Let's put some emotion into this. and that ultimately I feel became the downfall of it. But let's get some emotion into this. Let's get some connection into this. I was really excited for this. I remember seeing like on set leaked photos. I did not like the suit, I remember, and the shoes almost looked like not basketball sneakers. I don't know, it was just like, I don't know what kind of, I said sneakers, I'm hella old, like what kind of tennis shoes they were, but it just wasn't the vibe, and I didn't like it, and I was getting kind of worried. Lizard being a villain, I was like, that's always, I think, a great idea to start off with the Lizard, something very low key, but there's different ways you have to handle that, and I don't think they handled it really correctly. But choosing the Lizard was a good idea, and I was really excited for that. But again, I'll bring up my issues with that. But Andrew Garfield, I think at that time I only knew him from Social Network, but I was excited, and more than anything, like I pulled it up, it's gonna show, I searched for it. This made me really excited.
One thing, I think this might be the most incredible day of my life, and I've always wanted to be at Comic-Con in Hall H.
There's nothing like being in Hall H. Now it changed. It's not the same. But this was like peak moments. Right. I started in 2007-ish.
So thanks for having me.
Oh, it gives me a little bit of chills.
You have no idea how much this means to me. I've always wanted to come here as a fan.
Oh, he does.
And this is my first time, so here I am as a fan. I just want to say a couple of things. I'm Andrew Garfield, and I'm going to be here introducing this panel, this amazing Spider-Man panel.
And he's out of breath, too. It seems like he's
that the
excited.
reason why Spidey is so popular is because all of us can relate to him, and I agree. I needed Spidey in my life when I was a kid,
100%.
And he gave me hope. In every comic I read, he was living out
Poor guy,
mine and every skinny boy's fantasy of being stronger,
I don't know if he ran there or what.
Of being free of the body I was born into, and that swinging sensation of flight.
He has a lot of papers, too.
And upon receiving his power, unlike most who become corrupted, he used it for good. And I think we all wish that we had the courage to stick up for ourselves more, to stick up for a loved
Spider-Man
one,
around the head.
or even a stranger you see being mistreated.
Why
Peter
pick
Parker
Spider-Man
has
as
inspired me
the most
to feel stronger. He made
popular,
me, Andrew, braver. He reassured me that by doing the right thing,
he beats out Superman. Superman's most iconic. Spider-Man's
it's worth the pain.
Universal.
It's worth even the tears, the bruises, and the blood.
What do you think of a superhero?
And I wouldn't be able to stand here in front of you guys right now without feeling that Spider-Man was here with me, with his reassuring hand on my shoulder, making sure I don't fall over and concuss myself.
The ringer, all of that. There's a reason why Spider-Man is.
Countless people, girls, boys,
There's a reason why
all of us.
He was a cartoon the whole time.
And he saved lives, and he saved my life.
Now,
and I owe Webhead a lot, and I owe Stan the Man a lot, and I'm humbled to be here, like you do not know, to share the work that we've done with all of you. And this is my first Comic-Con, and
I miss Comic-Cons. My first one
this
was
is definitely
Iron Man
the coolest moment
1.
of my life, and thank you for being here and sharing it with me.
So, to say I was excited was a whole that couldn't cover being excited. My biggest thing is when people play characters, a lot of times it's just a job. I think when Michael Keaton took the job of being Batman, it was just to be Batman. He didn't have really much love for it. It's an acting job. Back then it was a little different. And of course people knew Batman is and all that, but it's different nowadays when people get the roles. Sometimes they follow it. Like, I can't remember her name. Miss Marvel. She is a huge Marvel fan. Huge. Like, her room is covered in it. It looks like Kamala Khan's room. And she knows, like, facts and, cool trivia things. And she fought for that role to get, and she got it. And I wouldn't believe how amazing that felt to be a character in the world that you love so much. So now when you see an actor really love who they're playing, regardless if it's a superhero or not, and they fall in love with the script or the character, it means the world to me. And that's a lot of, this is going to date this video, but it's a lot of fallback with Supergirl. She never read a Supergirl book. She never watched the old movies, and people held her against that. I get it. Some actors just go into it as an actor, but we're not going to really feel the love that you have for the character. You might have liked the script a lot, but it's a little different with superheroes because nowadays they're so in the limelight that people do have their favorites, or people are out there saying, yes, I want to play Batman. Yes, I hope someday they mention me being Joker. I would love to be Joker. So it's one of those things that you're going to get attached to it. You're going to be iconic, but on top of it, if you love what you're going to do, it's amazing. So I was so stoked for Andrew Garfield, and I'll still to this day rep Andrew Garfield. And there's a big thing in the last video about Andrew Garfield that I'll definitely 100% cover, that I'm excited to talk about. But we're talking about his new movie. For at the time, it was new. It was a big deal. We got Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. I always check my notes. Their chemistry was nuts. I don't think they were dating in the beginning, but definitely it was big. It was a big part of the movie. But I was excited. Like, Emma Stone was fairly newer in the acting world, but I think she had enough chops at that time to get into something like this. Again, I don't know if she did a lot more serious roles after. She was basically in comedies first. I think I really remember her first in Superman. I don't know if she was in anything else before that. Maybe House Money came out before that. I can't remember. But yeah, so that was a big thing. The web slinging in it was amazing. They really did such a good job. Almost reminds me that the video games now copy that swinging style. I think they were leaps and bounds better than Raimi's, but at the same time, I try not to hold those things against them, because it is with time and learning things. And like I said before, Raimi's knocked down the door for others to do other things and grow from it. So they definitely grew from it, and they kind of nailed how the swinging should be. And I think the MCU took the same approach, where they kind of used what TASM 2 did, TASM 1 and 2, far as the swinging feel. Like, it hasn't really changed since the TASM movies. He in this one, they made him a little more, not as a dork, but that kind of comes in as a problem later for me. But I did appreciate that they moved a little bit. They moved a lot away, but it's nice that we weren't getting. I talked a lot about modernizing things, which I like, and I think they hold up well when they're like that, even though it sounds weird to say, well, you want it to be like modern, like it's happening right now. To an extent, yeah, I agree, but I want it to be like we could be in their world and it makes sense. That could even go for other things. Like, you're watching Scarface, it doesn't feel like you could be in that world. You watch Heat, the movie with Al Pacino, you feel like you could be part of that world, and that's my point. It doesn't matter when it came out or whatever. It's just the way it's set up. And this movie definitely felt like we could be in the world. When you watch Raimi's movies, it felt very constructed. It felt very backdrops. It felt very Universal Studios vibe. Like, it was very costumey. I don't know how to explain it, but it was very Disneyland in my vibe, or feeling. Like, not a Disneyland movie, but just the structures, the sets. It was just different. And don't get me wrong, people like hate all the movies nowadays. They're done with just green screens behind them, and they work. It works really well now. But you got to appreciate what people did before that, building these sets and doing all those kind of things. So it's nice to see Spider-Man also be more talkative in this. The other Spider-Man, they made him do it, but it was, again, I would say it a million times about it, it was just corny. And they stepped away from that. They really stepped they wanted people to really think Peter Parker is cool. They really, really wanted you to think Peter Parker was cool in this series. And I don't know if that was a good thing or bad thing. For me, it turned into a bad thing, but it was at least a good attempt. I'm glad at risk taking. I like risk taking in movies. I like changing up things in movies to make it more different from the previous movies that have been out that you're copying, or not copying, that you're remaking a franchise, but also to give it like its own footing and give it a little freshness to the followers, especially for the people like me and you that read comics and watch comic book movies. We don't want to see the same thing hashed out over and over and over. We want something different. It's just sometimes they might step too far, and that might be a problem. But you just got to utilize what you can and try to do the best things you can about it. So I do appreciate this movie took a lot of risk, these two movies. But for me, it's just some of them were a couple steps too forward. But overall, I was really excited, and more than anything, I couldn't be any more happier with Andrew Garfield being in the movie. But there were issues for me, and we'll go a little bit of this. They say it's underrated, but I hear them nonstop talk about No Hat Guy, nonstop talking about how TASM 2 is like the best Spider-Man movie. I have no clue. This made me make a whole video about how bad TASM 2 is. This one, I'm going to try to talk about little good things about it, but also not just say how bad it is, but also kind of explain what things should have been done instead. and again, these are all opinions. I'm not saying things that's facts. These are just me putting out there what I see that could be fixed. And I hope people like me that like to read, that like to read comics, watch movies, take them very serious, take the characters serious, take movies serious. Like I wanted to be a script writer. I wanted to direct movies, and I talked in other ones how I followed a lot of like Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino. Like independent thing was like the thing in my era around the mid 90s era. And I really got into that headset of where you look at movies and it becomes not just this whole art thing, but it's also like you put yourself in it, like in a way. Like when these guys made their scripts and their movies, they put so much of themselves in it and so much of their thinking, and it was different. It's just a different way of approaching it. So I hope people understand and respect why I'll give my input of thinking like that. Again, not saying I'm good as them or anything like that, just I feel like I do, even if it's poorly, I think like that. I think, okay, I would have done this, and that's maybe me putting myself into the movie. So remember, it's just opinions, but I have strong opinions and I will argue back on them, and if you have a good way to argue it, fine, but I will point out things. I will say, can you argue this for me? And if you can't, or if you do give me a BS one, it's kind of, I don't like the whole thing. Well, it is what it is. And sometimes I have to say that about other things that I like, and you don't have an argument, and then you don't, and that's all I gotta say. Well, it just happened, and I that's it, and I can't argue it, and I basically lose the debate, but I still like what happened. So it sucks, but they're right. I couldn't prove why that worked or how it was effective. But let's see what the Eclipse, I call them Eclipse Escape podcast, guys. I swear I talk about them so much I might as well be on the show one time. But we probably argue about a lot of things. Sometimes I disagree with Hat Guy, no Hat Guy, but it'd be entertaining. But let's hear what they talk about TASM 2 being underrated.
TASM 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. What do you think?
Listen. Hear me out. Just hear me out.
I'm listening.
I always say this. I think you might have said this too before. I don't know. It's got some of the best Spider-Man moments ever put to a silver screen.
Yep.
So for me, just breaking it for a second, it was really hard writing this out and thinking about really iconic things that balanced out the bad things, and I couldn't get to a lot of stuff. I'll talk about it while I'm talking about it, but just to give anyone further heads up or think about what he's thinking, kind of stir your brain a little bit, kind of think about what iconicness or whatever they're saying, like all the good kind of levels out the bad, but try to think of all the good out of it that you feel out of the Garfield series.
Yep.
But also some of the worst moments ever put to the silver screen for a Spider-Man movie. So it's kind of mid, is what I would say TASM 2 is.
You think it balances out to be mid?
I think it balances out to be mid. I think there's people that are way too harsh on it. It's definitely not the worst Spider-Man movie. Like, I think that's crazy.
Again, I've seen this video a million times, so I came back to use it part of the video. He's going to end up contradicting himself, saying that TASM 2 is the worst out of all of them. I understand that idea, and what I say, again, you're like, well, just get to the point. I'm setting it all up. I do think TASM 2 is one of the worst next to Spider-Man 3. I already gave you my rant on Spider-Man 3 on the last video, where they fell, where it flopped. Poor Sam Raimi. He couldn't do what he wanted to do. The cornball shows happened, all that stuff. You could get that in the last video. But there's a reason why that one's on the bottom for me. And TASM 2, the reaching that they did in that, again, we'll cover all that, but just remember, he's saying that he thinks it's kind of bad that everyone comes down on it so hard, but I think at the same time he realizes that he is also a believer that it's one of the worst movies out of all the Spider-Man movies. And there's a whole other debate you can get into about the cartoon stuff, but we're not going to get into that.
Uh-huh.
And then you think it's the worst, don't you?
It's down there.
You might need to be euthanized.
What do you think is worse?
Are you kidding me?
Give it to me.
Worse than TASM 2?
Yeah, don't say Spider-Man Lotus. That doesn't count.
I don't know what Spider-Man Lotus is for some reason.
Spider-Man 3.
What do I have lower
Oh,
than
you
TASM 2?
like all the Raimi movies, right?
I love the Raimi movies.
Okay, I put Spider-Man 3 below it. I put Far From Home below it. I put Homecoming below it.
Say that.
That is just blasphemy to me. Putting Homecoming and Far From Home from it, I just feel like maybe the younger kids don't follow the bouncing ball with it. I don't know. I feel weird because I know kid loves Superman or Spider-Man. I know he loves them. So when you love characters, you force yourself to try to like it. You really do. And like I said, I get to the point when I'm older where it's like, there's no point in forcing myself. It's okay to critique what I did like, and go further, and maybe the newer stuff is better because they learn from the past, and that's a good thing we had the past. It's because we learn from it. We figure out ways to tell stories differently. But putting, oh my god, I'll have a whole video about those ones, so that's fine. I already talked about Homecoming, so I went to bat hard on Homecoming, but having those below Spider-Man 3, like, where do we watch?
Say that again. Spider-Man 3 is crazy, by the way. Spider-Man 3 is great.
No, it's not.
It's incredible.
If you're talking about having high highs and lows, Spider-Man 3 does, and I think the lows are worse than TASM 2. But I have TASM beneath TASM 2, I have Far From Home beneath it, and I have Homecoming beneath
You know what's crazy? Is I actually think it's my last rated live-action Spider-Man movie.
Is the Amazing
So
Spider-Man
I might have actually just contradicted. I think I like TASM 1. I don't know. They could flip-flop. TASM 1 or TASM 2 could be the worst, in my opinion.
You like Far From Home and Homecoming better than TASM 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got no words, my man. I got no words.
Just as a Spider-Man fan, I really don't understand that, but we're not gonna get to that right now. What we're gonna get into is Garfield movies. So clearly Sony wanted to step up, and they're like, we're gonna redo this. We're gonna take this really serious. Fuck all the cornball shit. We're gonna make this real, not raw really, but we're gonna make this a little more modernized. We're gonna make it where, you know, it does feel a little bit more like Spider-Man lives in our world. Problem is, I think they made Peter a little too cool, and I was worried about that. Andrew Garfield's a good-looking guy. All right, Andrew's a really good-looking guy. I think with Spider-Man, you got to find him kind of in the middle, not super nerdy, not super good-looking. Maybe Peter ages into that, I guess, but you got to have a guy in the middle that kind of holds the quality of being awkward and hard to fit in. But again, because we're in a different time where it's not what they were presenting in the Tobey Maguire one, that you're the nerdy guy with the glasses falling over, bumbling idiot. You know, that was a very it was a very cliche thing to do with nerds and stuff. Whenever I watch Saved by the Bell, dating myself again, the nerds always have tape on their glasses. They had, you know, pen protectors. Who the hell wears pen protectors? Whatever the hell they're called, pocket protectors, that so you don't get ink in your shirt. Yeah, so they moved away from that, but they moved really far away. This Peter Parker was super cool. This dude skateboarded, and not saying if you're a skateboarder you're automatically super cool or anything like that, but come on, give people respect. Like, as Peter Parker, you don't see him grinding down the street. Like, that's just not a Peter Parker thing. But they did that. They did it to probably be more relatable to the demographic of, like, I don't know, 13 to 25 year olds. And it just was, again, that's such a little thing. You're like, oh, you're picking out that. It's just a little thing that they added. But on top of it, there was a lot that he was not any kind of underdog, really. At least they never really presented him that in moments. And if they did, it'd be hard to be believable. If he got pushed over and got bullied, you're like, this dude could handle himself. This dude is a good-looking guy. He shouldn't have issues. I always say you could have cast Andrew Garfield, not acting-wise, because he's a way better actor to be cast as this, as Flash Thompson, the bullies in these movies, and you wouldn't bat an eye. You would have been like, yeah, he's a good-looking guy. He gets the girls. It works. He could play both, but granted, he's way better acting. Now, if they ever did it with Agent Venom's story, I 100% would think I'd be down with that Flash Thompson. But yeah, so they went a little too far for me in that direction. They didn't want to be close to anything with Raimi, and I get that. I 100% get that, because the backlash of number 3 left a bad taste in their mouth. I don't know how that guy liked it, but everyone's each their own. This is my perspectives on the movies and fighting for the ones that I believe are good and why the other ones didn't work. My thing I put down as being different isn't automatically better. Sometimes it feels like Spider-Man's core identity takes a backseat to making an audience know this isn't the previous trilogy. And I do feel that way. I think a lot of it got shifted just to focus on the fact that we need to be different. And it was different. It was a whole different vibe. When you watch that, you can't compare the two. They don't feel like they're the same superhero movie. They don't feel like they're the same superhero character. They seem like two different superhero characters that we're telling stories of. And I don't care what you tell me. You can put your arguments up for it. But if you bring me TASM 1, TASM 1, Spider-Man 1, and say this is the same character, and I strip it down to the bones, they don't feel like they're representing the same characters. They seem like two different superheroes, with the attitudes and the aliases and all that. It just doesn't work. Then big thing, I thought Lizard was a great way to start. I always thought a million times, when they said that, I was super stoked. I was like, this is a great way. It's very low key. It's going to be grounded. A lot of people around my age are going to remember the cartoon, and Kirk Connors was in it through so much of it, and he had a close relationship. But if you're at the comics, it was really deeper. He was almost a mentor in a way to Spider-Man, like Reed Richards did a lot in the comic books at that time or through the years. Kirk Connors was someone almost like that Iron Man role in a way, not so much how they put a lot of Iron Man in it to connect the MCU together, but these characters like Reed Richards, Captain America, Kirk Connors, these were characters that would pop up a lot and give him guidance and help him out, and it was just part of the story. So I was like, Lizard's a really good idea. But when I found out it was just Lizard, I was like, oh shit, hey, this got to be a we want a villain. Lizard's not a villain, it's a tragic story. So I'm like, great, we're not going to have like a villain to root against for, because we don't want Lizard to really die. You don't want Lizard to lose. You want him to be okay. And this is funny because in the Sam Raimi one I spoke about, they made you sympathize with all their villains, and it was kind of nuts. We couldn't have a bad guy just be a bad guy. In this one, I'm like, give us a bad guy, or give us sympathy for a bad guy. I'm actually going against what I was going against in the Sam Raimi one. So in the Sam Raimis, they made us all feel bad for them. Oh, poor guy, Sandman, and all this and that. But with these, they're like, yeah, let's not really care. And of course, Peter doesn't want to probably kill him, but they never gave emotional connection between him and Peter, and we didn't feel that. They didn't build around the character of it. I don't think the actor was that great. It's like Ray Fiennes, I believe, or something like that. I can't remember. I only remember him from like Little Nicky and The Replacements, from my knowledge. That's all I can think of. And this was someone like Peter admired, I wrote. Someone he wanted to protect. Instead, they barely spent enough time, I wrote, meaningly time together. And they didn't build off this relationship where it's a struggle for Peter, because like in the cartoon, we'll say, for people to relate, or in the comics, he was always torn with Lizard, because it was someone that he cared about very, very much and always looked out for Spider-Man, or Peter. And Peter always had to hold back a little bit, because this is the guy that will look out for him all the time, helps him with all, scientist stuff, like Reed Richards did. So it came kind of hard to be happy that Lizard was the first and not give a little more with it. There were rumors that Kraven the Hunter was going to be in it, and maybe he started hunting Lizard, and then he saw Spider-Man and he started hunting Spider-Man. Cool idea, but I think it'd been a little too over the top character. You could have threw someone else in there. I don't know who. That one I didn't really dig deep on who I would put in, but you would have to start something ground level. They maybe could have connected it to Uncle Ben's death, but again, that'd be almost like copying Raimi, and they don't want to probably do that. I don't know who I would actually put, but I definitely would put like a B tier. I guess Lizard's like maybe a B tier villain, but another B tier villain. Even if you make a C tier, like pretty cool maybe, but maybe more since we were going grounded, maybe like something mobby kind of, Tombstone or something like that. I don't know. Because we're getting a lot of action fights with Lizard. We could get big action with him. Another villain that's pursuing us in the story that he's pursuing could have been not the more mental side of it. But unfortunately, he's not just stopping another villain. He's stopping his friend. So there's two strikes for me, that we didn't have a real true villain in the movie. He was doing bad things and doing bad stuff, but we should have felt bad for him. We should have sympathized for him, and you really don't, because you just don't feel it. And I wish they did more where they connect with his son, and stories about that they did in the comics, but they didn't really, and that's fine. But I think they really dropped the ball on it, and I think Lizard is a great opening to this story, but it just, for me, fell flat, and they gave us no emotional connection at all, and it never got to develop. And that, I think, hurt the story if we saw it more. But maybe it should have been something over time. I don't know. Maybe Kirk Connors should have been like helping him like he did in Raimi's movies. They never developed an emotional connection in that either. But if you did use them like that, but made it actually like their they're one and the same, and if that guy turned to a lizard, he actually cared how much, and it hurt him and things like that. But it didn't hit for me. I do mention Lizard needs another villain, and I said a lot of it is because Lizard doesn't really have talking points, so there's no exploit, I guess. Am I saying that right? There's just no way to actually get like a story within talking a lot with the villain. We get it with a little bit with Connors, but as Lizard, he's very mute. He doesn't say a lot of stuff. I believe he has some lines. I haven't watched that in a while. I can't remember if I watched that one or I watched TASM 2 most recently. But there isn't like meaningful dialogue between the two, and I think that's the problem why they would need another villain, so we could get more story driven and more Peter growing and things like that, bouncing off his personality and doing things like that. The whole emotional goal here was like saving Connors, not simply defeating him. I wrote I would have made the Lizard more tragic, and that's true, and then making that be our main goal at the end of the day would be to save Lizard and make him better, but we'd have a subplot of another villain kind of getting in the way while Peter's trying to do this. Sounds like it could be a lot, but I think I look at other movies that have smaller villains, like I said before, Roz and Scarecrow, things like that, where it works to an extent where you have someone that's a minor issue while we have a big picture issue, to kind of give a story and kind of keep it tuned along, rolling around. And then they focus a lot with the Captain Stacy thing a little too much. Again, I think they wanted to go and try to be a lot different than Raimi's stories. Rather it being the emotional bond between Connors, they really focus on this odd emotional thing going on between Spider-Man and Stacy. Not that they're bonding at all, but they made like, you know what, we're there's tension, there's feelings, there's stuff going on. They really focus on that hard. And Dennis Leary's cool. I think he's not a bad actor. I just don't think he's a good Gwen Stacy dad, Captain Stacy. It's just really rough. It was something that really didn't need in the movie. We already had him kind of developing a relationship with Emma. That was something we could establish, and that was really good. That was doing a good job. But also the Lizard story is kind of falling for us, or falling for me a little bit, and it's like then we're gonna put that as one of our other plots. It's just like we're stepping farther away from a Spider-Man movie. The closest we're getting is Lizard, but Lizard even is just almost a nuisance. It's not like I said, there could be stakes even if it's not the end of the world. It could be stakes of I'm going to lose this human that I care about a lot, and I don't want to lose him to this other side of being the Lizard or whatever. So it just gets funky with that. He discovers Peter's identity. He dies. He asks Peter to stay away from Gwen, and that was really awkward. I get what they were going with, but it started turning this into Romeo and Juliet type shit, where it's like the forbidden love, and it's like, again, we're taking a lot away from a Spider-Man movie to a Peter Parker movie. And granted, I know they both are the same character, but once you have to play them one and the same. This was playing more off just being Peter Parker, not being Spider-Man one and the same. Even Spider-Man 3, I guess you would say, they were one and the same. Peter was going through things while being Spider-Man, so it's kind of like it was affecting both lives. With Peter staying away from Gwen, yes, because you're Spider-Man, but it was more so just we needed to give an agenda to give a story about, because how much the romance was blossoming in the story. We need to put another obstacle in the way. And for me, that was a little bit much. And I just really didn't like that. I didn't care for that. I think the look of the Lizard, they dropped it. People would do CGIs of their own, and they used like the Raptor, and I'm like, I guess that would work. And then when they got him, they dropped the ball. They could have made him look so much better. I was so upset with the look of the Lizard. I remember I was writing for a website at that time, and we were able to leak the images, and it was a big deal because we got Sony to contact us and tell us to take it down. We thought it was so cool. We thought that we were onto something because Sony reached out to us, but I was very disappointed in the look of the Lizard. And they have decent fight scenes. I think it's cool. One thing though with Peter, he showed off his powers a lot in the public, and that's just like a little problem. Like, you could get away with that, kind of one of those things where you would tell me, well, it is what it is, and you can't really argue against it, and it's just there. There's no real reason to say he did it. Like, definitely with Flash, like, getting mad at him about his uncle, I totally get it. Maybe he overexerted himself, like getting so upset about it, but it's just crazy to me that you did this in front of everyone in the hallway, like picking him up, basically throwing him against the locker, and then teasing them with the basketball, slam dunking it, and like breaking the glass. This would bring so much attention to you. It's just goofy, and it kind of does remind me of I think is it Homecoming. And it is in Far From Home too, that Peter does things that I'm like, why would you do that when you're trying to hide your identity? Granted, Tobey Maguire is himself. He's running down the street, opening up his shirt with like Superman with the Spider-Man logo on it. So they all have faults of showing too much. This one, I just feel like they were going way over the top, showing his strength and how crazy it is. Because you imagine some kid just in your school diving from the 3-point line basically and crashing the rim and breaking it all down. The talk of the freaking school would it be that someone ruined something in the gymnasium? Like, it'd be nuts. Yeah, I just thought a lot of more attention was brought to him. And then, you know, the movie really becomes more focused into a romance. I felt like it turned more into a Peter Parker Gwen Stacy storyline, which is good. I think romance is good in Spider-Man's life, but unfortunately I feel like this took the center stage of the movie. This was what we were watching. We weren't watching really Spider-Man does show up, yes, 100%, but we were waiting to get back to the main story, which was Peter and Gwen. Like, Spider-Man comes on the side and then we go back to the Peter and Gwen story. It wasn't watching a Spider-Man story, Spider-Man story, and then going to his love life on the side. It was reversed. So that kind of bugged me a lot, and they had good chemistry, I'll give you that, but I think maybe they focused on that way too much, maybe because they had good chemistry. I don't know. By the end of the movie, I wrote the emotional focus is no longer on Peter and Connors, it's Peter and Gwen. The relationship becomes the driving force going forward, setting up the sequel, and that's even more centered on romance. And I truly believe Lizard's ending was really dumb. He wanted to make everybody lizards. It's just a dumb idea to write that. I don't know, in a writer's room, if someone goes, I think what we should do is have Lizard want to turn everyone else to lizards. Granted, this would work maybe in the 80s cartoon, 70s cartoon. It's dumb, but we're trying to ground this a little bit, make it more serious. And for a bad guy just wanted to turn people into a lizard because he turned into a lizard, like that's what it did to his brain. It's just pathetic. It's stupid, anticlimactic. He saves everybody, Stacy dies. You know, and that's that. Then we move on. Spider-Man 2. This one was kind of. It was a fresh feeling a little bit. I could tell Andrew improved a lot more. I hated his like stuttering and stuff a lot in the first one. This one he was a little more confident, but again, you kind of got to be careful of the lines of confidence in Spider-Man. It depends what the story is, why he's confident. So this one could have been more that he's comfortable being Spider-Man. Emma Stone still really good, nothing bad on that. Spider-Man is finally energetic and funny. Like the first one, I hated his jokes. It was corny with him sneezing at the guy. I get it. He's supposed to be a teenager having fun, doing things like that. I understand that. But at the same time, I just was like, this isn't what I like for Spider-Man, basically. But in the second one, he does a really good job, or the writers do a good job, and Andrew Garfield delivers great lines of banter and the quips I like. And they kind of dropped it after that. But that was the best taste I feel like we've ever gotten of banter. I've mentioned before, I think Civil War has a decent, but it's not banter really, like quipping at someone like Spider-Man does, kind of clowning on them while they're fighting or joking around with them. In Civil War, Spider-Man is simply a teenager observing and like almost in a serious situation, but actually being like impressed and excited about things, while this Peter in the beginning moment is Spider-Man confident and he's playing with his food, and that was very satisfying and good to see. The action sequences were really good with him and Lizard. Again, I wish Lizard looked better, but the fight scenes were really cool. They still underutilized Spider-Man a lot. I feel like Spider-Man in all the movies, they could have made him a lot more, like, again, if you play the video game, maybe give you more of an idea what I'm thinking of. But it's like, you know, you see him bounce around a lot, do a kick down here, jump up there, to kick them up and kick them down. It's like, I'm not saying it needs to be a video game, but I'm saying you could kind of look at that, I guess, of examples of how he fights. But when you read it in the panels, it looks like that. It looks that we know how Spider-Man fights. There's a reason why this video game or whatever copies that. And even in some of the cartoons, they show it, you know, we're getting punches and kicks and flipping around and using cool things, grabbing web to use other things as weapons. he was like the Jackie Chan of fighting. He used things around him and threw it at them and stuff like that. And unfortunately, we never got that. But this was a really good action sequences. But that kind of is where all my attention for good stuff went. And then we'll go to number 2 further. And again, if you really like it like this guy, I'm sorry. It's a horrible movie. It's a horrible movie. It's really bad. So basically, we're watching how I felt was like a second act of the film. Not so much a sequel, because everyone's going to be like, what's the difference? It's a vibe. It's a feeling. It feels like we stepped out of the theater and we're coming back in to see the second part of the first movie. And I get it. Everyone could be like, well, that's just like what a sequel is. It's a different feeling. It's a different feeling when you... it's hard because there's movies that end and start with the next part in the next movie. And I get that, because even Far From Home does that with No Way Home. But it gets still like feel like a new movie in a way. But this didn't feel like it. We weren't just on one storyline on that. It was like, I don't know, we weren't really resolved in the last one. The only thing you could really resolve is Lizard's gone and Stacy died. But I don't know, it gave me a feeling, and I could be the only one that thinks this, it gave me just second act feeling. And people could be yelling at me at the screen if they do watch this. I hope to God people watch this, because I put a lot of work into it. But I'm talking a lot, and you probably just don't want to see my face talking. But it definitely just didn't feel like we felt fresh. And it's hard because the opening scene's really good. It's really good, but I still didn't feel fresh. So that's a good logical argument against it, is the opening scene, I believe, because the opening scene is him trying to catch Rhino. You could use that as an argument, and it'd be hard for me to defend that. But for some reason, I just feel like we're getting into the second act of the first movie. There's loose ends of that last part, and we had to keep going into it. Yes, that happens in sequels, but it seemed a little too connected, I guess. That's because people will be like, well, what do you want then? Not to be connected? Yes, I do. It's just hard to explain the feeling of it. Because even like, Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, that's pretty much right after. And, you don't have to be directly right after it. Some movies do that. Like I said, Far From Home did that. But it gives you a different like vibe, I guess. I don't know. And this one, I had the same feelings still when I got into this. I did laugh at Spider-Man doing what he did and all that, but it kind of got a little somber, and it felt like I was feeling the same way. Like I wasn't excited to jump into a whole new thing. I'm excited. It just felt like I was kind of continuing my feelings from the last one to this one. It never felt like fully rushed. I felt like they struggled with Gwen a lot. Peter was taking so much of the guilt. And I know that's part of character development, what they're trying to do. But again, we're not developing the Peter Spider-Man aspect. We're developing more of a Peter Parker side and dating aspect. Because yes, most of the times it's hard for him to date because he's Spider-Man. That's a lot of it, and I get it. That's what they're trying to do with Stacy's line, and what they're going to do with Gwen. But it started to feel like we're more overshadowing the Peter story more so than anything. And that's the unfortunate part. It was just messed up the pacing for me, and it ultimately became a Peter and Gwen's movie. And what's awesome about that is they both were great as it. It was a great romantic movie. It was really good. I'll give it 8 out of 10 for a romance movie. It was a pretty good romantic movie. What they went through, their ups and downs, but unfortunately this is a Spider-Man movie, and that was like all on the side. And the things that do happen on the side is like the villains being created and doing that, but Spider-Man gets some small stuff, but it's not. We go back to Peter and Gwen, and again, I get it, that's part of the story, and you guys are gonna be like, well, what do you want? You got to kind of focus on the Peter Spider-Man dealing with both lives. Yes, and you're gonna be like, well, he was dealing with Lizard and this, but once he was off Lizard, it seemed like he was off Lizard. He wasn't even thinking about Lizard. When he was with Gwen, he was thinking about Gwen, what he wanted to do with her, where he wanted to go. It never brought it into his attention doing Spider-Man stuff. I'm sorry, I said Lizard. Electro stuff. It never really got in his mind. He never thought about it. It never was affecting the plot going forward, or that character wasn't in his life in developing with him in the plot. It was just Gwen and Peter's show, and it just overshadowed Spider-Man. So I guess their argument would be how good of an actor Garfield is and Emma is, and I 100% back that. They were great in that movie, but unfortunately they were telling the wrong story in the movie, and that wasn't their fault. It's a good romantic movie. I'll give you that. And it's a tragic story of not being able to be together from 1 and 2. That they fight against that feeling, and then they get through it, and then he loses her. It's a total romantic ups and downs fall, Cruel Intentions kind of vibe. And now Cruel Intentions is extreme, but I'm just saying, like, the guy dies at the end. But you know, it's this whole story about this love story, and unfortunately Peter Parker does have love in his movies, but Spider-Man's not a love story, and that's a big problem for me. I'm there for the Spider-Man movie, not for just a romantic movie. But again, it's a good romantic movie. And Electro, God, this one might go further than I thought, just because all the gripes I have, and that's why I made a whole nother video with it. It's just because it's so hard for me to get why people like it so much, or for this guy to have it as number 1, no hat guy. It's nuts. Electro was stupid. He got the Riddler treatment. I've said that a million times. Poison Ivy treatment. He's a nerd. Oh my god, and he's a typical nerd. They made him like the Peter Parker nerd from Sam Raimi's, and worse. And Jamie Foxx is such a good actor, and he oh man, he looks up to Spider-Man. It's the whole Riddler thing, and he ends up wanting revenge, and he falls into eels. We have to connect animals again to be Electro. Cool, I'll roll with it. You know, that's not a huge problem. But he's like this lonely, awkward employee, and then out of nowhere he's a villain overnight, and he's a super villain, and he's not like really that guy. I mean, he has his moments when he's talking to people, like, you remember my name, when he's talking and stuff. But like, what was his goal? What were the intentions? Where are we driving here? What are you trying to sell me on this guy? He wanted to be noticed. That was the whole point. That's the whole plot of his journey, for me to get behind Electro as a villain. You watch Thanos as a villain, you know his story. You know where he's going. You know his determination, what's driving him, and all that. I'm trying to think of other movies, and I don't want to go to MCU because everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, you're biased." Trying to think of what Nolan, Riddler, and Patterson's. We get the mystery behind it, and once it starts to unfold, we understand the drive for what he's doing, why it's so weird, and he's got this following and all these different things. With Eel Man, we just have he was just a nerd, awkward, and walked on, and then he's like, "Oh, cowards, I'll come after you." The typical villain story you did when you tell a little kid a villain story, like, "I'll get after you for teasing me," and it's just silly, it's stupid. He doesn't want power. The motivation shifts sometimes, if there are any, and it doesn't really fall right. And then visually, they really try to copy the Ultimate Spider-Man again, because that's the only time you see him blue, and he just looked like Dr. Manhattan, and that was kind of a bad thing. But it just didn't spill out Electro. And I think for anybody that knows about these movies, it's really hard to be comic accurate. Unfortunately, they were too scared, and X-Men was like one of the first ones that, like, we're in all black leather, and it was just stupid. There's ways to make it work, and clearly through time we solved it, and people didn't blink no more. When Wolverine finally got his costume, it was one of the most epic moments when he put on the mask. It's like a huge moment for a bunch of nerds. It was great. We loved it. So clearly we were foaming at the mouth for it, and unfortunately Electro is hard, but I won't lie to you that in Far From Home he wasn't that bad. I was kind of bugged out that he was just in a regular clothes, but once he was Electro and the electric made a face thing on him, I don't know. I've seen some AI mock-ups and stuff like that, photoshops of ideas of how to make the mask look. He was such a dork and awkward. Why not just have him make a mask? Riddler did the same thing, and you're making him Riddler anyways. Riddler made his own costume. They just moved away from a very memorable costume. I felt like that with Quicksilver in Civil War. That Quicksilver is a very simple costume to put, very simple visual to give us, and they really failed on the visual for us. Like, they wanted to make him too regular. They gave him like a Nike running shirt, and they literally could just have the electric thing go across it. Why would it? I don't know. Coincidence. Just let it be. One of those things I could argue, it is what it is. They just gave him a shirt and it happened to have electric bolt on it. So with that being said, there are times where it's a simple fix and you could just fix it for something iconic. And with Electro, he's an iconic looking character, and we kind of took that away from him. And then we get Harry. Harry shows up for no reason, out of nowhere. There's a reason behind it, but I don't feel like these guys are even friends. Once again, I brought it up with Harry and the other one. It doesn't feel anything, and people are gonna hate it. Next to Ned and Spider-Man, I mean Peter, Ned and Peter, you feel the connection. It feels like, I feel like that with my bros, and it's like you get it, you get the vibes. You freaking are building Legos together, like dumb stuff that you do not have to let everybody know. You didn't feel anything. It felt more realistic than we're watching a movie. And with this Harry, he's super distant and awkward and kind of creepy. I don't know if it's because the guy was fresh off that movie where he was like an evil villain or whatever, but he just did not have a Harry look. When you think of Harry, you got to think of this guy that's can become emotionally damaged, but also can put a facade up at the same time. And that's what Harry Osborn always did. And it was always a battle with being Peter's friend and Peter being friends with him, knowing what his dad went through, knowing what he goes through. It's just a thing. So if you're setting that all up, it was really, really bad. The chemistry was horrible. They had no real history. They make little mentions of it, but you couldn't feel it. No one cared. We didn't care. We had no care about Harry being his friend. No one, I don't care what you tell me. This is an argument you could come at me with. You can't tell me, yeah, when Harry showed up, I hella cared about their friendship. Like, what made you care about their friendship? Why? Oh, because I read the comics and they're really good friends. No, that doesn't change it. That doesn't work. Like Kong, I think his name's Kong in Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, they make them really deep. And I think that's where their inspiration was for Ned. They make them really deep and they're really chill, and it's just a vibe. And with this, it's not there. There's nothing to care about. You would have to just go off other things and be like, oh, I like it because of this. That's not involving the movie. And it was just really bad. I couldn't believe it. They never gave their friendship time to grow and for you to care when he turned into the Green Goblin, if you want to call it the Green Goblin. And the emotional payoff doesn't land because the emotional setup never happened. That's what I put down, and that's what I truly believe. Then we'll go a little bit further with Harry Osborn's. Real quick with the design, horrible. They just dropped the ball. They wanted to go with the face. Like I said, that's a good idea. This was a little too far. They made him like a troll. The visuals were just really bad, and it just didn't land at all, and it didn't make me care for him. I wasn't scared of him. I'm a grown man, I know I'm not supposed to be scared, but I'm saying in that vibe, I wasn't like, oh, this is a fearful villain. He looked gross, but he didn't look like a threat. He looked like a leprechaun or something that just would nag me. It didn't feel weighted, heavy emotions while he was Green Goblin as well, and the look didn't help either. Didn't help either. The look just, oh man, it I know Green Goblin's really hard to get across. Sometimes all you need is a hoodie and a good actor. And then Peter's origin, oh my god, this is probably already long right now, but it's gonna have to be long because I'm doing it. I'm doing all the Garfield ones, and I knew this is only 2 movies, but I knew I had a lot to say, especially because Spider-Man 2. The biggest problem is I feel Spider-Man has always represented the idea of an ordinary kid could become extraordinary. This guy doesn't like it. He gets mad and he screams and he crashes out on one of them, the no hat guy, because the hat guy's like, it took away so much from the idea of Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and that was the whole point always, that it would, like, nothing should be destined by all these coincidences to make you that person. It should be your fate, your luck. Steve Rogers had things in his system, blood, whatever, that would make the soldier serum work. It was because he was picked, and by chance, when he was with a group of people, a doctor saw him and picked him instead, and that's what made him Captain America. These things happen on different ways, and like I think they did an Ang Lee Hulk where they made it connected, where his dad experimented on Bruce, and that's how he connected with the Hulk and the gamma rays and all that. I think, I'm not 100%. That movie is blasphemous. I don't want to hear anybody defend that with me ever. I don't want to talk about it, because people that say it's really good, I can't even talk about it. But to change it to where Peter Parker's dad worked for Oscorp and he made the spiders, and it dealt with his blood, which connected to Peter's blood. Now everything traces back to Peter's father, the spiders, the DNA, the experiments. Spider-Man no longer feels like an accident that happened to the right person. So that was always a cool thing with Spider-Man is I love the hood. Robbie Parker gets the hood, and it's called with great opportunity comes great response, or with great response. I'm crashing out on this movie. With great power comes great opportunity. That's their catchphrase. So when it happens to certain people, they have certain ways, and this was always cool. It fell in the hands of the right guy, and that's what always was a cool thing, that we could look at Peter Parker, not just Spider-Man being the hero, but Peter Parker. He got these powers and he was able to make this decision. Now this was meant to be. It was all orchestrated and it was all connecting the dots. It all had to fall a certain way, how everything had to touch and had to pin and go here and go there for it to happen for him to become Spider-Man. And you just ruined everything. It all was manufactured at that point. You took away that crazy, and I really wish I could talk to No Hat Guy. Why? Because he argues for it so much, how he doesn't get the idea behind the fact that some ordinary kid got bit by a spider and had to learn a lesson and did the right thing and continued to do the right thing. He learned his ups and downs and all that, but it changes when you tell me that it was meant to be this kid. It was almost organized to be this kid. Not that, okay, he was eventually going to be there and get bit, whatever, but it all became coincidence, right? It wasn't by accident. It was, he could have got bit by the spider, but it just so happens his dad played a part, and then on top of it, Harry's gonna need that blood. That's kind of interesting. So Norman Osborn then gets introduced, and then he dies. I don't care for the actor that played him. Norman Osborn is a big thing, and I was like, cool, they're gonna use Osborn in here, and they're gonna set him up just the way I think they should. No, he dies. Maybe there was a story planned way after that he'd get resurrected or something, or the post-credit scene we're gonna get later that shows him like getting reanimated, or they kept his body. I don't know. They could have done something cool, I guess, with Green Goblin. Maybe not, because the real Green Goblin was Harry, I guess, so that would have been Goblin 2. Oh man, I don't mind changes, but that'd be a hard act to follow there. You'd have to really clean that up. But he dies. There's no Harry connection, really. There's no Peter and Norman that at least Raimi's Spider-Man at least had some of a connection with him. They related a little. That's a big deal about Norman Osborn, is it's his best friend's dad that is his ultimate nemesis, and it's a crazy thing once he finds everything out. And we got none of that, so they erased all that. It exists just to pass the disease on to Harry. Coincidentally, that he got this disease that they don't know how to cure it, but somehow deals with the spider blood, and it's genetic, so it's going down to you now. And now Harry's starting to see, coincidentally, at this time, that his sickness is getting worse. So how all that happened and how he wrote that, I don't know. I don't know how they let this go through. It is Sony, so I don't get how they overshot this so hard. And again, I don't get the argument a non-hat guy has about how good it is. This setup is horrible. Connecting with the dad that worked for Oscorp, good, cool, fresh start. But then he made the spiders that connected with his blood, that the blood was going to connect to Peter Parker, that he connected with the spider, and that blood ultimately was going to be the cure for Harry Osborn, who ended up eventually being Peter Parker's best friend, and it all was manufactured. It was not a natural flow. We had to build this world, and it had to all fall into pieces. It wasn't by luck. It wasn't by fate. It was nothing like that. To make this story work, it had to all happen. There was no coincidence. I mean, there were they're odd coincidence. There wasn't just like, oh, Daredevil, he fell face first into chemicals, got powers. It was like, no, his dad owned the chemical place, and then his eyes already had a defect, and when the chemical hit his eyes, it actually changed that defect. That would help. If someone else would have got hit with the eyes with the what am I saying? The sludge or whatever you want to call it, the chemicals, they would never turn to Daredevil because they didn't have the problem with the eyes, and their dad didn't own the chemical company. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me that all these things had to line up for them to be that superhero. And when you think of it like that and you break it down like that, you would have to know this is fucking stupid. This is dumb. I don't know how anyone could talk about being Spider-Man's origin and connect it all with the parents. And the parents, again, I don't want to get too much into it. The parents were brought back in the comics as for a second, like in an annual, and they were live what do they call them, life model decoys Chameleon made. And then somehow they brought them back, and then somehow we learned that the dad was in SHIELD and the mom was in CIA. And there was like a Mary Jane novel that talks about they died in a plane crash. I'm guessing that's where they got this inspiration from. It was weird, it was funky, it didn't make sense. They got killed by like someone affiliated with Red Skull. It all made no sense, and from then on, Marvel they buried it deep down and made the parents not matter at all. So I appreciate trying to be different. I appreciate trying to do something unique, having the parents involved and the spin, but all you did was just waste a bunch of time, like I'm wasting my time right now and your time probably. But my point is, you use so much of a story that we did not need to tell a story that could have been told. And then Sony, on top of everything, wanted so hard to make this to be their MCU. They wanted it to be their own universe. They saw what was happening at Marvel, and they're like, we're going to expand our world. And they still try to do it. We have Morbius, we have Kraven, we have Madam Web. Ugh. None of these have really impressed us, all right? I don't care what anyone says. They're not very impressive. Sometimes if you layer it a little different, take out the names and stuff, it might work a little bit as a movie, but the acting and the scripts are pretty fucking horrible. We got a lot of hints with the Sinister Six, and we had the Man in the Hat and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things getting like dropped in a lot with Oscorp having secrets, and things were getting hidden, and hidden technology, and then we heard about spin-offs. Rather than like finishing like one great Spider-Man story, or even a trilogy, or even number one, they were too worried about all the future projects and too worried about connecting everything just how MCU did it. Except for when they did it, they were, I don't know, better, I guess? I don't know, because somehow we're here like 15 years, 20 years later almost, and we are deep into very emotional movies that, again, not all of them are great. I'm not going up to bat for that. But we're able to create a whole universe, and I think Sony wanted to do that really bad, and that's what happened. They started to not focus on things, and we got the Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, lovable movie, and then we go to the end. Gwen Stacy dies, and to be honest with you, that whole thing's weird. Not Gwen Stacy, but the ending, the climax. They overload Electro, dies. We don't need him anymore. Let's get him out of the story. So we need to get him out of the way. So let's just kill him and get him out. And then, okay, Goblin's here. It's creepy. He wants my blood, and it's weird that he goes as Spider-Man to just tell him, no, you can't have my blood. And it's like, Peter Parker could have been like, I just can't get a hold of him or whatever, but I guess Peter just wants to help him somehow. Maybe he could talk to him out of it, but it's just hard because you would have to kind of do it as Spider-Man. I think they wrote themselves in a corner with that story. But yeah, so of course he gets injected with like these failed spider venoms and stuff. Could have made it close to Venom, I guess. I don't know, made a different Venom type story, but they do use the Venom or something like that. And it just was horrible. The fight scene was bad. The character was out of touch, did not feel like a Goblin. Corny, again, really cheesy villain, no threat, not scary. The only threat was he was risking the fact that Gwen might die. Nothing was compelling out of these movies. We got the scene like worked, I wrote so well though, the death, because we were so invested in that relationship from the first and second one, because we were watching a Gwen Stacy Peter Parker movie, and we were watching this romantic movie with these subplots on the side while the subplots were getting in the way of their story. So when the death did happen, I think it did a good job of hitting Peter and showing us how it affected him. And he was gonna move with her to like, what was it, England or something like that, and yeah, it worked. It worked well. The death scene worked awesome. You knew it was coming because she was in the outfit from the comic, but it worked very well. If you want to say what iconic moment in a movie, the death scene of Gwen Stacy is pretty up there. It's a good moment. They hit it on the head. But the reason why it felt so much, again, is because they focused so much on Gwen and Peter. We actually cared a lot about her when she did die. Maybe there's ways they could have done it to make us still care and tell a whole story around it still. Yeah, I think we could have. I don't think we had to have the Peter Parker Gwen show. And unfortunately, they got their moment. They earned their moment. Definitely. The performance was great. It was unforgettable. They did a lot. But then we move on and we get to the end where it's kind of like he's upset. I get it. He's depressed over it. The whole dad thing and stuff gets swept under. A bunch of other stuff that they threw in. They're making it so complicated. And this is not having like a bunch of villains. This is just a bunch of subplots getting thrown in like crazy. I think Spider-Man 2 is like probably the worst Spider-Man movie, if not Spider-Man 3, because it's just oversaturated. So much stuff is going on, and you can argue with me all you want, and I want you to argue with me or discuss with me and talk about this, that it was just Peter and Gwen we were seeing. That was what we were following. That was our bouncing ball I always talk about following. We were following them, and Spider-Man was on the side, and these other things were on the side, and things came up with the parents, and then things came up with this, and it just didn't work. And the Aunt May didn't feel like Aunt May. At least the original Aunt May gave you the vibes of the old Aunt May thing, because it was a risk, I think, with Marissa Tomei. Ultimately, I think it worked, but because the last one we didn't really feel connected to her really, but she played the role. She was like, okay, this is Aunt May. She's just old lady that doesn't know he's Spider-Man. There was no like emotion to it besides we knew he cared about her. This one, just Sally Field just felt blah. It felt nothing. Yeah, so overall, the movie, just the ending, he comes back and the suit in Spider-Man 2 is amazing. It's probably the best Spider-Man suit out there. There's no Spider-Man suit, I think, better than number 2, TASM 2. If that is why he likes them out of all the movies, cool, that's a good reason. That suit is amazing, Spider-Man. It's amazing. It's such a good suit. Comes back, got the suit on, shows a little kid. We see the inspiration, of course, that kid, standing up to it. Cool little moment. But it's kind of like, okay, we know there's going to be more things. They're going to do Secret or Sinister Six. And then we get Rhino back, and he's like the lost leg of a Megazord. I don't know if you kids know what Power Rangers are. I mentioned, I think, in the last video, but there's certain animals that come all together like Voltron in a way, or just like Voltron, and they become a big robot. And this looked like the leg of one of them. They really did Rhino wrong, which was funny that Kraven actually kind of got him right, but then they kind of fumbled, but they were going in the right direction. At least looked kind of like it. Rhino's an easy concept to get done, and you don't have to say much about it. You don't gotta give us an origin why he looks like it. He could just be gray hide Rhino suit, and I don't care about his origin. He's just there to throw his head around, hit things. There is a comic called I think it's called The Untanglable Spider-Man, where they told different odd stories. It was where Rhino got intelligence, and it was a really, really kind of sad story because he falls in love, and he has a suit, and it's just different. But that's like a lot of depth for Rhino, and that was an offshoot for one comic. And for Rhino to just be there, you don't need all these things to have just a guy in a Rhino suit. We don't need him to fall in the eel pit for us to be like, oh, that's how he got powers. We don't need it. We don't care. Just bring Rhino to just start shit at the end. We don't need that. We don't need the whole different vibe. Let's go way farther than Raimi's. Let's make him a robot. It looks stupid. Paul Giamatti, I think, is a decent actor. Some people will be like, what are you talking about? He's amazing. He had an amazing start getting in the limelight. Then he kind of started falling off. Like nowadays, I don't think they use him as much. That's one reason why I say he's not like a great actor, is just because he didn't really hold the test of time. But that being said, would I pick him to be Rhino? No. I would just got some big wrestler pride to play Rhino and made him just a side thing, just like they did. He was just a robber in the beginning. Goblins assigned someone, the hat guy, to make Rhino go after him or whatever, something stupid they did. And I would just made some big dum-dum they got from the first one, beginning of the movie, come out at the end and be like, oh, he's back, he's starting trouble. Maybe it wasn't a threat for it just to be a guy in a suit, but you could have had him looking like Bebop and Rocksteady, Toka and Razor, throwing around crap in the middle of the city. That would have worked with the police shooting at him, bouncing bullets because his hide. It could have worked. And the fact that you're like, let's just make him a mechanical robot, was lazy. And not to mention that you couldn't even tell it's a Rhino. It just looks so bad. And then I think he goes on all fours at one point. I can't remember. It just was bad. I know he goes on 2 legs, and he's like very Sigourney Weaver, alien type of body, robot body, when she fights the alien. Just bad. He's really tiny. His head small. And if you want to call him a good actor, which, he's not a bad actor, you wasted him on this. This was his role for the movie. They showed Rhino in all the posters, and they had Electro and Goblin, and everybody was like, man, this might be too much villains. And to be honest, it really wasn't that many, but it wasn't that many because they didn't use them really, Rhino. at the same time, I think Electro and Goblin could have worked balancing them out with the storylines, but unfortunately they got pushed to the side really, and we focused on Peter and Gwen. And then at the same time, they did the whole, you don't like him, I don't like him, let's team up. I don't like that. There has to be motives why they cross paths and why they're fighting him. And sometimes they could just end up in the same spot when they're hunting the same guy down. Sometimes that just happens when you have a couple different villains and they cross paths somehow. They don't have to go, hey, well, let's team up and beat them. It doesn't have to be that way. So lately, I've been kind of thinking sometimes you could just go with a solo villain unless there has to be something on the side that needs to be told for a bigger picture going on. And that side villain is just your subplot. Just like I said in the first Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Lizard should have been the subplot. And the end goal is to save my friend, and that was going on while I'm kind of dealing with issues of my love life and issues of some other problem that I'm having with another villain because I'm Spider-Man now, and I'm dealing with that. Again, bad take on the origin story. They really ruined it. I appreciate people taking risks, I really do, but they got too deep with it, too much coincidence. And it kind of just ends, and we see Spider-Man kind of gets his oomph back. He's gonna be Spider-Man now. He slings the sewer drain or whatever the hell, a manhole, and that's it. And we're kind of like, okay, Spider-Man's back. We'll see. We don't get another one, fine. But having those two together, all I got was a Gwen Stacy Peter movie. And when it ends, it's like they just finished the Gwen and Peter movie, and so that really hurt it. I think that not having a third one where Peter kind of got to go on his own and do his own stories. That kind of sucked, because I think eventually you do want to grow and change the cast around and have people come and go and leave. Some people die, some people don't. But it's fine. But with this, there's only 2 movies, and the drive was Emma and Peter. So it kind of hurt not getting a 3, because we didn't get to, unfortunately, see Peter not sitting there looking for Gwen all the time or talking to Gwen all the time and taking up so much screen time of their story. So who knows what we could have gotten a third one. I hope we didn't follow the formula of the villains, but honestly, I'm very happy Andrew Garfield got another shot at it. Again, that'll probably be my last video when I talk about stuff like that. We had great actors in the movie, great costume, great swinging, a lot of cool stuff that did happen, but it was a horrible movie. Story was god awful. The only thing that worked was Gwen and Peter, and I think on top of it, they were dating by this time, so their chemistry was really good. And I'm not saying just because you date that makes it work, but sometimes that helps, and I think it really, really did help. Because Peter Toby and Kirsten Dunst, I believe, dated at one point, and that did not help Mary Jane become any more likable or any reason for me to want to watch the movie anymore. But with Gwen and Spider-Man, I did like seeing them together, and it was an interesting story watching it. But again, it took me away from going, oh shit, this is a Spider-Man movie. Why am I? It's a Peter and Gwen movie now. And there's moments where you just get taken out, where you realize this isn't focusing on Spider-Man. It's not Peter Parker Spider-Man. It's Peter Parker and Gwen. So unfortunately, it's a very bad movie. There's a dog pile of poop of Spider-Man 2 that makes it very unbearable for real. I don't want to say real because that seems rude. Someone that really appreciates movies, comics, superhero movies. When you look at it now, even then you look at it, they just really dropped the ball on all the issues. The origin, tying the parents with it all was manufactured. Nothing just happened to a random kid that had to make choices in his life. He was designed to be this, basically. It was set up for him to be Peter Parker, set up for him to be Spider-Man. It was set up in all these ways, and then Harry Norman Osborn. I'm getting stuttered on this. Norman Osborn dies from this disease out of nowhere, and then he somehow is going to pass it to Harry, and Harry got it, and now he needs Spider-Man's blood, and all these things they try to do for the actual Spider-Man story were just bad. Was just so bad. There was no plot getting driven into us. Again, we were watching the Peter Parker Gwen movie, and it's a decent Gwen Peter Parker movie. It is, I will give you that, but it's not a good Spider-Man movie. Everything else outside of that, and oh yeah, I forgot, wait, we have Electro over here on the side. What's the matter with him? Oh, he fell in a thing with eels. He was a nerd, and he kind of just, I don't know, he's mad at everybody now, but what does he want to do? I don't know. His motives kind of change all the time. He kind of just wants to get back at people, and he kind of doesn't like Spider-Man. Forgot his name or something, I don't know. Okay, cool. Here's another subplot we're adding that no one cares about. No emotion. We don't care about his motives. We're not scared about his motives. Is it gonna get to I was gonna say Wolverine? Does it get to Spider-Man? No, it doesn't. All of it doesn't matter. I don't know what we're watching. Who can say this is a good movie? I don't know what we're watching here. This is a mess. We're watching a romantic movie. Cool. But let's take all the names off and let's move all the things around. We don't need all these other characters then if we're going to watch the Peter Gwen movie. Now we have these characters and we're doing nothing with them. We kill off Norman Osborn. We make Harry barely there and then turn to the Green Goblin. And we don't care he's the Green Goblin. He's the first Green Goblin. It means nothing. Peter's not affected even that much about it. Your best friend forever that you have no connection, basically, no chemistry with, of course it doesn't matter. When he turns to the Green Goblin, he's like, this sucks, dude. You're a bad guy. And it's like, Electro, nerdy guy, became a bad guy. Does he have anything connected with Peter? Not really. Spider-Man saved him a little bit in the beginning, told him he was somebody, knew his name. Okay, cool. But there's no heart in this. There is heart, I should say. And that's the love between Gwen and Spider-Man and Peter, whatever you want to call it. Gwen and Peter. There was that heart. There was that emotion. But for the heart of Spider-Man, there was none. There was no heart for Spider-Man. You could argue with me all you want. I will keep telling you the same thing. Tell me that there are times in the movie that we felt the heart of Spider-Man. Maybe the end when he's slinging the manhole, that, oh, he's back. It doesn't feel like Peter dealing with the life of Spider-Man. It's Peter dealing with being Peter, and Spider-Man's on the side. Peter Parker and Gwen are the story, and I'll repeat it over and over and over. And it sucks because we had a great cast. I don't know so much about the villains. If Electro was done differently, I would agree with Jamie Foxx, but they did Jamie Foxx dirty. Harry Osborn needed to be casted a whole different way. Captain Stacy doing his thing was kind of stupid. It didn't have really ramifications except for a little bit in the beginning. Then it got all thrown out the window. It didn't matter anymore. His death did not matter, and doesn't get brought up again near, let's say middle to climax of this movie. There was no oh, I remember this. Remember what my dad, blah, blah, blah. It was just, we let it go. And that's fine. You gotta let things go, but then you're letting go of this string that was connecting something else that was part of the plot. And again, we didn't get a Spider-Man movie. Andrew Garfield deserved better. Emma understood Gwen Stacy, but Sony decided that these movies wanted to be a romance, a mystery, a Spider-Man movie, a start of a cinematic universe, trying to put everything at once and kept the series from reaching its full potential. And 100% I agree with my statement. So much was shoved in this because they wanted this to be so big, because all the other movies out at that time were hitting hard. And after TASM 1 was pretty much, people saw it because it's Spider-Man. You could do a bad Spider-Man movie, people will go. But I think people were ready to have, okay, we got past that. Maybe there's going to be better after this. We're going to up the stakes. I heard Green Goblin's in it. Emma's still there. It's going to be good. But the problem is they wanted to worry about so much of these things. Let's add the parents for the mystery. Let's add them for the origin. Let's add, keep the Gwen thing going hard. So when she does die, it's going to affect us. Cool. But let's not ignore Spider-Man. Let's not ignore the villains developing. It just all fell apart. And they fought too hard to try to keep it setting up for a huge universe that made no sense. And we know that clearly because Sinister 6 movie was going to get made, and they're going towards it, and we end up getting these other dumb movies like Madam Web, Morbius, Craven, and I'm sure we were going to get the one with Bad Bunny. I don't mind Bad Bunny. I actually think he's a decent actor in some of the movies, but he has small parts. Cause people argue with me that, and that's fine. I love Bullet Train. He's decent in Bullet Train. He's not much in it, but Bullet Train's a great movie. But they're going to even do him as a wrestler, the wrestling story, and it's like literally a 2-3 comic arc story. Maybe 2 comics cover this villain, and they're going to make a whole movie out of it. Like, it's not like a main character or anything like that. It was just this guy that was El Diablo or some shit like that. It's just, it was bad. It just failed Andrew Garfield really bad, and he was the best part of it with Gwen, or Emma, I should say. And Sony just tried so hard to be away from Raimi that they went too far away, and there is like these little flashes that could have been greatness that they just ultimately are lifting up, and then they drop it immediately. We got Rhino, drop it. We're gonna do Harry's storyline, drop it. We're gonna introduce Electro and make him cool, but it's like, drop it. He's gonna be a nerd, and he's gonna get powers this way with eels. And what's his motive? He's just got picked on, and it's just, they had these moments that could have been greatness, and it literally just dropped through their fingers every time. And again, I think I fall it all on Sony. Nothing against the actors, the writers, I put a lot on them, but you know, the visuals are pretty, they look nice, the swing's great, all that. But like I said, at the end of the day, we're just watching a Peter and Gwen movie. It looked very different than the 3 ones we saw before. In the Raimi series, and then starting off with this one, they did feel different. They accomplished their job, but unfortunately, they moved so far away from Spider-Man. They made him like not interesting, and we didn't care about Spider-Man. We cared about Peter and Gwen, and that's my biggest gripe with it. So with Homecoming, I defended it. With Raimi's trilogy, I re-examined it. And you could say I critiqued it, and then this one I definitely critiqued it. But this one I probably bashed the hardest because of almost the dropping the responsibility that they had following the Raimi movies, that they had such a clean slate and such a great opportunity with such good actors that they could have done so much with this, that they failed so hard. How can you have failed with this? What made you want to bring the parents in as an origin story? Again, I love risk taking, but you could shift around the origins a little bit. I don't mind, but the way they did it and how it had to all connect, it just ruined the story. It was so bad. I don't know if this guy just goes off how Spider-Man looks in it. Maybe he likes the look of Electro. Maybe he likes the look of Green Goblin. But I want to hear explain why the story is good. I want to know, why is the story a good story? Why do I care about Peter beating Electro? And most likely they're going to say, no, you should worry about he is having problems trying to work things out with Gwen, and he's trying to figure out his life, if he's going to go with her, and then ultimately she dies and it hurts him. Yes, because it's a Peter and Gwen movie. We don't care about Harry and Spider-Man. We don't care about Harry and Electro. You don't care. It doesn't matter what happens with those two sides. It doesn't. Electro died. Green Goblin died. Well, he kind of didn't die, but gone. No one cared. All we cared about was Gwen Stacy died, and that was the point of their movie, was to make this long love story to get to this point. And now we're at a part where we never got to develop really Spider-Man. We developed Peter like emotionally a lot with Emma or Gwen. Peter got to develop a lot with Gwen, almost too much, to the point that you're moving so far away from a Spider-Man movie. We didn't get connections with Aunt May. We didn't get, anything like that. We didn't get connections with Harry. We missed out on so much opportunities, and that's why I blame Sony so much for this, that we could have had something really good. And I can't understand anyone defending it and saying Sony did a good job here. They did really good with what they had. No, Sony fucked up. Sony fucked up bad. They had an opportunity to make a great movie with great actors, and they fucked up. They messed up. I'm sorry. It sucks. This could have been something. This could have been big. This could have carried out. But do you know what the good thing is? Andrew Garfield got to come back and redeem himself. And that again will be in my last video, not movie. And that's a cool thing, because Andrew Garfield deserves it. Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. He loved the character. And I know he was bummed he didn't get a third movie. And that's the honest truth. So it's bad. It's not good. And everyone says Far From Home is bad. So I guess we're gonna have to go there, because we're gonna go finish this off with talking about Far From Home in the next video, and we're gonna do a little bit of diving in with him working with the Avengers, and of course Far From Home. And I'm gonna go through all the things people hate about it and kind of explain why I like it, or the bad things I say, yeah, I got you, this is kind of dumb. But that's where we're going next, and this is long. I'm sorry if you did watch all this. Thank you so much. I put so much into this. I really had to get into a lot of writing into it, late nights of being on my phone typing, watching like clips again, and watching, do I remember if this happened or that happened. Some I rewatched, but it's something that I really like, and I love Spider-Man to death. At least if you're watching this still, you'll know we have one thing in common. We want nothing but the best for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's fucking awesome. He's a great character, and we want the best. So when we get defensive over this movie or that movie, it's because we want the best Spider-Man, and that ultimately is a cool goal for us both to have at the end of the day. So this isn't me just trying to tell you that Spider-Man TASM 2 is dog shit, as you say, as Homecoming. But it was just a really incomplete movie, and just had horrible parts, that horrible gears in the cogs that were turning the wrong way and just messing up a whole movie. And while we got a great romantic movie, it wasn't a Spider-Man movie, unfortunately. But we're moving on. So that was Garfield's story, and it is what it is. Like I said, you could say we're past it now and it's over. But we go to the MCU again, and we're gonna go back to Far From Home, where people really look at this as one of the weaker films. Like sometimes it goes back and forth. Sometimes it's No Way Home, and sometimes it's Far From Home. But I already gave you my speech on No Way Home. But we're gonna move on to a little bit of Tom Holland in the MCU, and then we'll go to No Way Home in the next video. So hopefully you hang around, you hung out, and if not, if you're my friend or family watching this, I appreciate that at least. Again, you could put me on in the background, just let me play. Open up your other tabs on your computer, just let me hear me talk, and then go back to me and type things down that you want to yell at me. That's fine. Just bring a chair to the table. Come sit down and talk to me about this. So yeah, that's where it's at. And we'll see you guys next time. And hopefully you're not mad at me and understand me. If not, let's argue about it. We'll discuss about it.